"Human, can you show me your private parts?" The question echoes in Joshua Shaw's quarters aboard the ISS Curiosity, freezing him mid-step. He turns to face Lara, the female Zenkethi scientist cornering him against his desk. Her bioluminescent skin pulses with an eager cyan glow, reflecting off the metallic surfaces of his living space. Joshua's mind races. As the ship's lead xenobiologist, he understands the scientific importance of Lara's request. The Tsenkethi, only recently discovered and engaged in a tenuous cultural exchange program with Earth, remain largely a mystery. Their advanced technology and secretive nature make every interaction crucial for human-Tsenkethi relations. He opens his mouth to respond, but words fail him. The weight of diplomatic responsibility clashes with his personal boundaries. Lara's 6 eyes blink in rapid succession, her antenna twitching with anticipation. The room feels smaller by the second. Before Joshua can formulate a response, the ship's AI interrupts. "Alert! Incoming distress signal detected. All personnel report to battle stations immediately." Captain Elena Rodriguez's voice follows, terse and urgent. "This is not a drill. Unknown alien force attacking the human colony on Proxima B. All hands on deck." Joshua and Lara lock eyes. The awkwardness of their previous encounter evaporates, replaced by a shared sense of urgency. They bolt from the room, racing through the ship's corridors toward the bridge. Joshua notices Lara's skin now pulsing with a fierce red intensity, hinting at combat readiness he never suspected in the seemingly peaceful species. They burst onto the bridge, greeted by a scene of controlled chaos. Captain Rodriguez stands at the helm, her face illuminated by the massive view screen dominating the front of the room. On it, a colossal alien warship hovers over Proxima B, its design unlike anything in human or Tsenkethi records. As Joshua watches, the unknown vessel unleashes a strange energy weapon. The colony below erupts in explosions, buildings crumbling like sandcastles. The screams of the colonists echo through the ship's communication channels, a chilling backdrop to the unfolding horror. Captain Rodriguez turns to address her crew, her voice steady despite the dire circumstances. "Our orders are clear. We engage the enemy and protect that colony at all costs." She pauses, her eyes scanning the faces before her. "I won't lie to you. We're outgunned and outmatched. But those are our people down there, and we will not abandon them." Joshua feels a chill run down his spine. The ISS Curiosity, while well-equipped for research and exploration, is no match for the firepower displayed by the alien warship. He glances at Lara, noting the determined set of her mandibles. As the ship moves to intercept the alien threat, Joshua's personal communicator buzzes. A classified message from Earth Command flashes across the screen. His eyes widen as he reads, the information searing itself into his brain. A hidden weakness in Tsenkethi physiology, exploitable in combat situations. Joshua's gaze darts between the approaching alien warship, Captain Rodriguez's grim expression, and Lara's pulsating form. The weight of his knowledge threatens to crush him. Does he share this potentially life-saving information, betraying the trust of his own species? Or does he keep it secret, maintaining humanity's tactical advantage should this fragile alliance crumble? As the ISS Curiosity races toward its deadly confrontation, Joshua realizes that his next decision could alter the course of human-Tsenkethi relations forever. The fate of the colony, the crew, and possibly 2 species hangs in the balance, and it all started with a simple yet profound question about human anatomy. Joshua's fingers trembled as he tapped out a response to Earth Command, acknowledging receipt of the classified information. The weight of this knowledge pressed down on him, threatening to crush his purpose. He glanced at Lara, her bioluminescent skin now pulsing with a fierce red intensity that matched the urgency of their situation. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through his internal struggle. "Shaw, I need your expertise. What can you tell us about this alien vessel?" Swallowing hard, Joshua stepped forward. "Captain, I have some information that might be relevant." He lowered his voice, leaning in close. "It's about the Tsenkethi. There's a weakness in their physiology that could be exploited in combat." Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. "My ready room. Now." As they retreated to discuss the sensitive information, the ISS Curiosity accelerated towards the looming alien threat. Lara, oblivious to the whispered conversation, focused her 6 eyes on the screen. Her antennae twitched rapidly, picking up subtle electromagnetic fluctuations from the enemy ship. "Captain," Lara called out, her mandibles clicking with excitement. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature from their weapon systems. It's unlike anything in our records." Before Rodriguez could respond, the alien warship unleashed a barrage of energy projectiles. The bridge erupted into chaos as crew members scrambled to their stations. "Evasive maneuvers," Rodriguez barked, gripping the arms of her chair. The ISS Curiosity banked hard, but not fast enough. The ship shuddered violently as multiple impacts rocked its hull. Sparks flew from overloading consoles, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "Main power failing!" an engineer shouted over the din of blaring alarms. Joshua stumbled as the artificial gravity fluctuated. He reached out instinctively, his hand closing around Lara's arm. Her skin flashed a brilliant blue at his touch, momentarily illuminating the darkening bridge. "We need to get to the engine room," Lara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I might be able to stabilize the power grid." Joshua nodded, following her lead as they rushed from the bridge. The corridors were a maze of flickering emergency lights and billowing smoke. They rounded a corner, only to find their path blocked by a collapsed bulkhead. "This way," Joshua coughed, pulling Lara towards a narrow maintenance shaft. "It's a tight fit, but it should get us to the engine room." They squeezed into the cramped space, their bodies pressed close as they navigated the twisting passage. Joshua became acutely aware of Lara's proximity, her bioluminescent skin pulsing in mesmerizing patterns. Each accidental brush of her alien form against his sent a shiver down his spine. As they crawled through the shaft, Joshua's mind raced. The classified information about Synkethi physiology burned in his thoughts, clashing with the growing sense of connection he felt towards Lara. He found himself studying her movements, noting how her skin's illumination shifted in response to their shared predicament. "Lara," he began hesitantly, "I've always wondered, how does your bioluminescence work? Does it correspond to your emotional state?" Lara's antennae twitched, a gesture Joshua was beginning to recognize as a sign of curiosity. "It's a complex interplay of neural impulses and specialized photophores in our skin," she explained. "And yes, it does reflect our emotional and physiological states to some degree." As they talked, Joshua found himself sharing details about human biology, drawing parallels and noting differences. The exchange was oddly intimate, a stark contrast to the dire situation unfolding around them. Suddenly, another blast rocked the ship. A hissing sound filled the maintenance shaft, and a sickly sweet odor assaulted their senses. "Coolant leak," Joshua shouted. "We need to remove our outer layers to avoid contamination." In the confined space, they awkwardly stripped off their protective gear. Joshua couldn't help but notice the intricate patterns swirling across Lara's now exposed skin. Their eyes met in the dim light, a moment of shared vulnerability passing between them. The moment was shattered by the ship's AI. "Alert! Critical system failure imminent. All personnel report to emergency stations." Reality crashed back upon them. They redoubled their efforts, pushing through the discomfort and the growing tension between them. As they finally emerged from the maintenance shaft, Joshua's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from the bridge. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared on the small screen, her expression grim but determined. "Shaw, we need you and Lara on the bridge immediately. We have a plan, but it's risky. It involves using Lara's bioluminescent abilities in a way we've never attempted before." Joshua glanced at Lara, noting the mix of apprehension and excitement in her six-eyed gaze. As they raced back towards the bridge, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever came next would change everything, not just for the ISS Curiosity and the human colony, but for the future of human-Synkethi relations. And perhaps, he thought as Lara's hand brushed against his, for his own future as well. Joshua and Lara burst onto the bridge, their hearts racing from both exertion and anticipation. Captain Rodriguez turned to face them, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and desperation. "Shaw, Lara, we have a plan," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But it's risky and unprecedented." Joshua nodded, still catching his breath. What do you need, Captain? Rodriguez gestured to the ship's chief engineer, who stepped forward with a bundle of cables and sensors. We're going to integrate Lara's bioluminescent abilities with our defense systems, the engineer explained. If successful, it could create a protective energy field around the ship. Lara's 6 eyes widened, her antennae twitching rapidly. You want me to connect directly to the ship's power grid? She asked, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. Precisely, Rodriguez confirmed. It's never been attempted before, but it's our best shot at surviving this encounter. Joshua felt a knot form in his stomach. He glanced at Lara, noting the determined set of her mandibles. I'll oversee the procedure, he said, meeting the captain's gaze. I'm the most familiar with Tzenkethi physiology. Rodriguez nodded sharply. Make it happen. We're running out of time. The next few minutes were a blur of activity as Joshua and Lara raced to the engineering bay. The alien warship loomed ever closer on the ship's sensors, its weapons primed for another devastating attack. In the cramped confines of the engineering bay, Joshua and Lara worked feverishly to connect the biosensors to her luminescent skin. Their hands brushed against each other repeatedly, sending jolts of electricity through Joshua's body that had nothing to do with the ship's fluctuating power grid. Hold still, Joshua murmured, carefully attaching a sensor to the base of Lara's neck. Her skin pulsed with a soft blue glow, reacting to his touch. He found himself mesmerized by the intricate patterns swirling across her alien form. Joshua, Lara said softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of machinery. If this doesn't work, it will, he interrupted, his voice more confident than he felt. It has to. As Joshua connected the final sensor, Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. Alien vessel approaching. Prepare to initiate defense system. Joshua's fingers flew over the control panel, double and triple checking every connection. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, knowing that Lara's life hung in the balance. Are you ready? He asked, his hand hovering over the activation switch. Lara's 6 eyes locked onto his. Yes, she said simply. Joshua took a deep breath and flipped the switch. Immediately, Lara's body went rigid, her bioluminescent skin flaring with an intensity that forced Joshua to shield his eyes. Energy coursed through the specially designed conduits, spreading throughout the ship's hull. On the bridge, Captain Rodriguez watched in awe as a shimmering field of energy enveloped the ISS Curiosity. The alien warship fired its weapons, but the energy projectiles dissipated harmlessly against the bioshield. It's working, Rodriguez exclaimed. Shaw, status report. In the engineering bay, Joshua's elation at their success quickly turned to horror. Lara's body convulsed violently, her skin flashing in erratic patterns. The ship's systems were drawing too much power, pushing her physiology to its limits. Lara, Joshua shouted, frantically adjusting the power flow. Stay with me! Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through his panic. Shaw, we need to maintain the shield. Can Lara hold on? Joshua glanced at the readouts, his mind racing. She's in distress, Captain. We need to end this quickly. Understood, Rodriguez replied. Weapons, target the alien vessel. Fire at will. The ISS Curiosity's weapon systems, now augmented by the Tzenkethi bioenergy, unleashed a devastating barrage. The alien ship's hull buckled under the assault, explosions blossoming across its surface. As the enemy vessel began to retreat, Joshua immediately initiated the shutdown sequence. Lara collapsed into his arms, her skin fading to a dim, sickly glow. Medical team to engineering now? Joshua barked into his communicator. He cradled Lara's limp form, his fingers frantically searching for signs of life. Stay with me, Lara, please. The ship's medical team arrived moments later, their faces grim as they assessed Lara's condition. Joshua refused to leave her side as they rushed her to the medical bay, his mind racing with everything he knew about Tzenkethi physiology. Hours passed in a blur of urgent activity. Joshua worked alongside the medical team, pushing the boundaries of his xenobiological knowledge to stabilize Lara's condition. He found himself talking to her unconscious form, his voice hoarse with exhaustion and emotion. You can't leave now, Lara, he whispered, adjusting a bioregeneration field. We have so much left to discover about each other. As Lara's vital signs slowly began to stabilize, Joshua allowed himself a moment of relief. He slumped into a chair beside her bed, his hand finding hers. The contact sent a faint pulse of blue across her skin, a promising sign of recovery. Suddenly, the ship's alert system blared to life. Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the medical bay, her tone urgent. "Senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have a new situation." Joshua hesitated, torn between his duty and his desire to stay with Lara. As if sensing his conflict, Lara's eyes fluttered open. Her gaze found his, and she spoke in a weak but clear voice. "Go," she said softly. "The crew needs you." Joshua squeezed her hand gently before rising. As he left the medical bay, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited him on the bridge would change everything. Not just for the ISS Curiosity, but for the future of human-Tzenkethi relations, and perhaps for his own future as well. Well, Joshua took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever new challenge awaited them. As he entered the bridge, the tension in the air was palpable. Captain Rodriguez stood at the center, her eyes fixed on the main view screen. Joshua's breath caught in his throat as he saw what had captured everyone's attention, a massive alien fleet, far larger than the single ship they had just fought off. "Status report," Joshua said, moving to stand beside the captain. Rodriguez turned to him, her expression grim. "Long-range sensors picked up the fleet entering the system. They'll reach the colony in less than 48 hours. Joshua's mind raced, considering and discarding options. "The bioshield we used against the single ship won't be enough to protect the entire colony," he said, thinking aloud. The captain nodded. "Exactly. That's why I called you here. We need a solution, and we need it fast." Joshua's thoughts turned to Lara, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with energy. An idea began to form in his mind, wild and ambitious. "What if we could replicate the bioshield on a larger scale?" he proposed. "We could create a network of bioenergy transmitters throughout the colony, with Lara as the central conduit." Rodriguez's eyes widened. "Is that even possible?" "Theoretically, yes," Joshua replied. "But we'd need more Tzenkethi. The strain on a single individual would be too great." The captain's brow furrowed. "We don't have any other Tzenkethi on board, or at the colony." Joshua took a deep breath. "Then we need to contact the Tzenkethi homeworld. We need volunteers, and we need them now." Rodriguez nodded, her decision made. "Make it happen, Shaw. You have full authority to do whatever it takes to get this defense system operational." As Joshua left the bridge, his mind was already racing with plans and calculations. He headed straight for the communications center, composing a message to the Tzenkethi government as he walked. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Joshua divided his time between the lab, where he worked to modify the colony's existing defense systems, and the medical bay, where he consulted with Lara on Tzenkethi biology. "The key is to create a stable network," Joshua explained, showing Lara his preliminary designs. Each Tzenkethi volunteer would act as a secondary node, amplifying and stabilizing the shield. Lara studied the schematics, her 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession. "It could work," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "But the energy requirements would be enormous." Joshua nodded, acutely aware of how close they were sitting. "That's where your insights are crucial. We need to optimize the energy flow to prevent any individual from being overwhelmed." As they worked, Joshua found himself hyper-aware of Lara's presence. Each accidental touch sent a jolt through him, and he couldn't help but notice the way her skin pulsed with a soft blue glow whenever their hands brushed. The response from the Tzenkethi homeworld came faster than expected. They agreed to send a small group of volunteers, but expressed concerns about the risks and long-term implications of sharing their biological capabilities with humans. As the Tzenkethi volunteers arrived and preparations for the enhanced bioshield continued, Joshua noticed something unexpected. Human crew members working closely with the Tzenkethi began showing increased sensitivity to the aliens' bioluminescent signals. "It's fascinating," Joshua told Lara as they calibrated one of the bioenergy transmitters. "It's like our nervous systems are adapting, learning to interpret your bioluminescence." Lara's antennae twitched with interest. Perhaps this is the beginning of a deeper form of interspecies communication, she suggested. Before Joshua could respond, the ship's alert system blared to life. Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the air. "All hands, battle stations. The alien fleet has accelerated. They'll reach the colony in less than 6 hours." Joshua and Lara exchanged a look of purpose. "We're out of time," Joshua said. "We need to activate the shield now." They rushed to the central control room, where the other Tsenkethi volunteers were already assembling. Joshua began the final calibration sequence, his fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly he lost his balance as the ship shuddered under an impact. His hand brushed against Lara's arm, and a surge of energy coursed through the system, temporarily overloading it. "What was that?" Captain Rodriguez demanded over the comm. Joshua stared at Lara, his mind racing. "Captain, I think we've just discovered something important. The connection between Lara and me, it amplifies the bioenergy field." There was a moment of silence before Rodriguez responded. "Can you use it?" Joshua met Lara's gaze, seeing his own mix of fear and willpower reflected in her 6 eyes. "We're about to find out," he said. As the alien fleet entered the outer reaches of the colony's star system, Joshua and Lara took their positions at the center of the energy distribution network. The other Tsenkethi volunteers formed a circle around them, their bioluminescent skin pulsing in unison. "Activating the shield in 3, 2, 1, Joshua announced, his hand intertwined with Lara's. The air crackled with energy as the massive bioshield flickered to life, encompassing the entire colony and the ISS Curiosity. Joshua's body tingled with the flow of power, his senses hyper-aware of Lara's presence beside him. On the main view screen, they watched as the first wave of alien ships approached. The effectiveness of their hastily assembled defense was about to be put to the ultimate test. As the lead ship fired its weapons, Joshua held his breath, feeling Lara's hand tighten in his. The fate of the colony, the future of human-Tsenkethi relations, and their own lives hung in the balance as the energy projectiles hurtled towards the shimmering bioshield. Shield as the energy projectiles hurtled towards them. The impact was immense, but the shield held. A collective gasp of relief echoed through the control room as the alien weapons dissipated harmlessly against the shimmering barrier. Joshua felt a surge of triumph, but it was short-lived as he realized the true battle had only just begun. "Shield integrity at 92%, a technician called out. "The strain on the network is significant." Joshua nodded grimly, his hands still intertwined with Lara's. He could feel the energy coursing through their connection, a constant push and pull of power that made his skin tingle and his heart race. Lara's bioluminescent skin pulsed in sync with the shield's fluctuations, her 6 eyes locked onto the main view screen with intense focus. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "Shaw, status report." "The shield is holding, Captain," Joshua replied, his voice tight with concentration. "But the energy demand is immense. We're pushing the limits of what our volunteers can handle." As if to underscore his point, one of the Tsenkethi in the outer circle swayed, their glow flickering dangerously. A medical team rushed to stabilize them, but Joshua knew they were operating on borrowed time. The alien fleet, momentarily thwarted by the unexpected defense, began to change tactics. Smaller, more agile ships broke away from the main group, darting around the edges of the shield in search of weak points. "They're probing for vulnerabilities," Lara observed, her voice strained but steady. "We need to reinforce the shield's structure." Joshua nodded, his mind racing. He could feel the bioshield's energy flowing through him, and an idea began to form. "Lara," he said urgently, "I think I know how we can stabilize the shield, but it's risky." Before he could elaborate, the ship shuddered under another barrage. The shield flickered ominously, and Joshua felt a spike of pain lance through his body. Lara gasped beside him, her grip on his hand tightening. "Whatever you're planning, do it fast," Captain Rodriguez ordered over the comm. "We've got multiple bogies attempting to breach the perimeter. I'm dispatching fighters to intercept, but we can't hold them off forever." Joshua took a deep breath, turning to face Lara fully. "We need to create a more direct connection," he explained quickly. "Our biosignatures, when combined, seemed to amplify the shield's power. If we can deepen that connection, we might be able to stabilize the entire network. Lara's eyes widened in understanding. The risks. I know, Joshua interrupted, but it's our only chance. After a moment of hesitation, Lara nodded. What do we need to do? We need to move to the central power facility, Joshua said, already signaling for a medical team to assist them. We'll need specialized equipment to facilitate the connection. As they were rushed to the prepared chamber, Joshua could hear the sounds of battle intensifying outside. The colony's defense fighters engaged the alien scout ships in a series of high-stakes dogfights just beyond the shield's boundary. Inside the chamber, an array of human and Synkethi technology hummed with potential energy. Joshua and Lara were guided to a central platform, surrounded by pulsing bioconduits and holographic interfaces. Are you ready? Joshua asked, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and fear. Lara's skin rippled with a complex pattern of light. Yes, she replied softly. As the technicians initiated the synchronization process, Joshua felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had experienced before. His senses seemed to expand, reaching out to encompass not just his own body, but Lara's as well. He could feel her heartbeat as if it were his own, sense the flow of bioenergy through her alien physiology. The connection deepened, and suddenly Joshua wasn't just sensing Lara's physical form. He was experiencing her thoughts, her memories, her very essence. Images flashed through his mind, alien landscapes, the vast depths of space, moments of joy and sorrow from a life not his own. Lara gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. Joshua, she whispered, I can see everything. Their combined consciousness expanded further, reaching out to encompass the entire bioshield network. Joshua could feel every node, every connection, as if they were extensions of his own nervous system. With a thought, he adjusted the energy flow, stabilizing weak points and reinforcing areas under heavy attack. The shield pulsed with renewed strength, its energy signature shifting to something entirely new. On the main view screen, they watched as the alien fleet's weapons fire splashed harmlessly against the barrier, unable to penetrate its enhanced defenses. But as their connection deepened, Joshua became aware of something else, a vast repository of knowledge, hidden in the depths of their combined minds. Ancient secrets, long-forgotten histories of both human and Synkethi civilizations began to surface. And there, buried beneath layers of time and memory, they found something shocking, the true nature of the attacking alien force and its intricate connection to both their species' pasts. The revelation threatened to overwhelm them, but before they could fully process its implications, a massive surge of energy erupted from their joined consciousness. The pulse radiated outward, engulfing the entire battlefield in a blinding flash of light. As the light faded, Joshua and Lara found themselves at the center of a transformed landscape. The alien fleet hung motionless in space, their systems temporarily disabled by the energy pulse. But the effects weren't limited to their adversaries. Throughout the colony, both human and Synkethi technology flickered and sputtered, disrupted by the unexpected surge. Captain Rodriguez's voice, filled with a mixture of awe and concern, echoed through the chamber. Shaw, what just happened? The alien ships are dead in the water, but we're experiencing widespread systems failures. Joshua struggled to form a coherent response, his mind still reeling from the intensity of his connection with Lara. He could feel changes occurring at a cellular level, their biology shifting into something new, something hybrid. As they grappled with the enormity of what they had uncovered and the physical toll of their fusion, a new realization dawned. Hidden within the shared consciousness was a potential key to ending the conflict, a method of direct communication with the alien ship's AI systems. But pursuing this possibility would require them to delve even deeper into their dangerously intimate connection. As the disabled alien fleet began to show signs of recovery, Joshua and Lara faced a monumental decision, one that would shape not only the outcome of the battle, but the future of human Synkethi relations and their own intertwined destinies. With time running out and the colony's fate hanging in the balance, they exchanged a look of understanding. Whatever they decided, there would be no going back to the way things were before. The question now was, How far were they willing to go to save everything they held dear? Joshua and Lara exchanged a look of fierce dedication. The enormity of their discovery took a toll upon them, but the immediate threat demanded action. "We need to go deeper," Joshua said, his voice barely above a whisper. Lara's skin pulsed with agreement. "The alien AI, we might be able to communicate directly." Without hesitation, they intensified their connection. The chamber around them seemed to fade as their consciousness expanded, reaching out across the void of space towards the motionless alien fleet. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through their shared mental space. "Shaw, Lara, what's happening? We're detecting massive energy fluctuations." Joshua struggled to form words, his mind now a swirling vortex of human and Senkethi thoughts. "Captain, we're attempting contact with the alien AI. It's our best chance to end this." As their fusion deepened, visible changes rippled across their bodies. Joshua's skin took on a faint luminescence, while Lara's exoskeleton softened, developing a more human-like texture. Their appearances merged, creating a shimmering, iridescent hybrid form. Through their shared consciousness, they reached out to the alien fleet. At first, there was only static, a cacophony of incomprehensible data. But as they pushed further, patterns began to emerge. Suddenly, they were in. The alien AI's consciousness unfurled before them, a vast tapestry of information and intent. Joshua and Lara's hybrid mind raced to decipher the complex language of the beings they now knew as the Vorkath. Images flashed through their shared mind, barren worlds, depleted resources, and a desperate search across the galaxy. The Vorkath were seekers, driven by an all-consuming need for a rare element, one they believed human-controlled worlds possessed in abundance. As this revelation crystallized, Joshua felt a jolt of recognition from Lara's portion of their consciousness. The element the Vorkath sought wasn't just valuable to humans, it was vital for Senkethi biological processes. Their discovery sent shockwaves through the command center. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through their mental link once more. "Shaw, we're receiving your data stream. Our science team is analyzing it now for potential weaknesses." But the captain's words seemed distant as Joshua and Lara grappled with the implications of their discovery. The conflict of interest between human and Senkethi needs threatened to unravel their fragile alliance. Before they could fully process this new complication, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Vorkath, sensing the discord among their opponents, had launched a renewed assault on the bioshield. Joshua and Lara's hybrid consciousness became the linchpin holding the defense together. They poured their combined energy into the shield, feeling every impact as the alien weapons battered against it. The strain on their transforming bodies intensified. Pain lanced through them, a burning sensation that seemed to reach down to the cellular level. Medical alarms shrieked in the background as their vital signs fluctuated wildly. "We need to pull them out," a medical officer shouted. "Their bodies can't take much more of this." Captain Rodriguez's face appeared on a nearby screen, her expression grim. "If we separate them now, we lose the shield. The colony will be defenseless." As the captain grappled with her impossible decision, Joshua and Lara made a startling discovery. Their hybrid state wasn't just affecting them, it was changing those around them. Humans and Senkethi near the central power facility were beginning to exhibit faint bioluminescent properties. Waves of empathic energy rippled through the colony, creating a web of shared sensations and emotions. Through their connection to the Vorkath AI, an idea began to form. It was risky, potentially catastrophic, but it might be their only chance to end the conflict without further bloodshed. "Captain," Joshua managed to say, his voice strained and otherworldly, "we have a plan, but you're not going to like it." Lara continued, her thoughts seamlessly intertwining with Joshua's. "We can create a temporary wormhole, redirect the Vorkath fleet to an uninhabited system rich in the element they need." "But the energy required?" Rodriguez began, her eyes widening as she grasped the implications. "Yes," Joshua and Lara spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing in an eerie chorus. "It would require complete fusion of our consciousness. There would be no going back." The captain's face hardened as she weighed their proposal. The loss of two individuals against the salvation of an entire colony. The unknown consequences of a human Zenkethi hybrid entity against the very real threat of annihilation. Before she could respond, the bioshield flickered ominously. Breaches appeared in multiple sectors as the Vorkath launched their final massive attack. "We're out of time," Joshua and Lara's hybrid voice rang out. "Captain, we need your decision now." Rodriguez closed her eyes for a brief moment, the weight of command heavy on her shoulders. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. "Do it." With the captain's approval, Joshua and Lara began to channel every ounce of energy they could muster. Their already merged forms seemed to blur further, the boundaries between human and Zenkethi dissolving. As they prepared to attempt the impossible, the fate of two species hung in the balance. The wormhole technology, barely theoretical until now, would be their ultimate attempt. Success would mean salvation for the colony, but at what cost to Joshua, Lara, and the future of human-Zenkethi relations? The hybrid entity that was once Joshua and Lara focused their combined will, reaching out to the fabric of space-time itself. As the Vorkath fleet pressed their attack, the air around the central power facility began to shimmer and distort. A low, resonant hum filled the air, as reality itself seemed to bend around the hybrid entity. For a moment, it appeared as if their audacious plan might succeed. Suddenly, a blinding surge of energy erupted from the colony's power grid. The unexpected influx overwhelmed the delicate balance Joshua and Lara had achieved, sending shockwaves through their merged consciousness. Their unified form flickered, light patterns racing across their skin in chaotic bursts. "No!" Captain Rodriguez shouted, lunging forward as if to physically halt the process. "Shaw! Lara! Can you hear me?" But her words were lost in the cacophony of alarms and the deafening roar of energy discharges. The hybrid being that was Joshua, and Lara convulsed, their forms stretching and contracting in ways that defied physics. Then, with a thunderous crack, their consciousness separated. Joshua stumbled backward, his legs giving way beneath him. He collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, his skin still faintly luminescent. Lara swayed unsteadily, her exoskeleton now bearing a strange, almost gelatinous quality. "Status report," Rodriguez barked, her eyes darting between the two prone figures and the array of emergency displays flashing red around her. A young ensign's voice cracked as he responded. "The bioshield is failing, Captain. Multiple breaches detected in sectors 3, 7, and 12. On the main view screen, the previously immobilized Vorkath fleet roared back to life. Their ships, sleek and predatory, moved with renewed purpose, probing the weakening defenses of the colony. Rodriguez's face hardened as she assessed the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Initiate emergency protocol Omega. We're evacuating the colony." As the order spread, chaos erupted throughout the settlement. Colonists scrambled for shelter, their panicked cries echoing through the corridors. The ISS Curiosity, its hull scarred from previous engagements, moved to intercept the first wave of Vorkath scout ships, breaching the faltering shield. Despite their weakened state, Joshua and Lara struggled to their feet, their bodies still in flux from the aborted hybridization process. Rodriguez turned to them, her expression a mix of concern and dedication. "Shaw, Lara, I need you two to oversee the evacuation. Your unique understanding of both human and Zenkethi biology is crucial right now." Joshua nodded, wincing as a wave of dizziness washed over him. "Understood, Captain. We'll do what we can." As they moved to carry out their orders, a new complication arose. Reports flooded in from across the colony of humans, and Zenkethi exhibiting strange biological changes. The partial hybridization process had spread further than anticipated, affecting those in proximity to the central power facility. Joshua's scientific mind raced, analyzing the problem even as he directed evacuees to the nearest shuttles. "Lara," he called out, his voice hoarse, "we need to modify a cargo ship. The hybridized colonists can't safely board standard craft." Lara's skin rippled in acknowledgement, her Zenkethi features more fluid than usual. "I'll gather our engineers. We'll need to implement biostasis technology to stabilize them during transit." As Joshua worked feverishly to adapt the cargo ship, Lara coordinated with the Tsenkethi volunteers. Her intimate knowledge of their physiology, combined with the lingering effects of her fusion with Joshua, allowed her to manage the volunteers' transformations and organize them into effective evacuation teams. The colony shuddered as another Vorkath barrage struck home. The bioshield flickered ominously, its once vibrant energy now dim and erratic. On the outskirts of the settlement, the ISS Curiosity engaged in a desperate dogfight, its weapons blazing as it sought to buy precious time for the evacuees. Joshua and Lara found themselves working in close proximity once more, their partially transformed bodies a stark reminder of their interrupted fusion. Brief moments of shared sensations and emotions flashed between them, complicating their efforts to focus on the urgent task at hand. A deafening explosion rocked the colony's perimeter. Alarms blared as a Vorkath strike team breached the defensive line, their energy weapons carving a path toward the central power facility. "Shaw! Lara!" Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm system. "Vorkath forces have penetrated the perimeter. They're heading for the hybrid technology." Without hesitation, Joshua and Lara sprung into action. They led a hastily assembled security team to intercept the intruders, their enhanced strength and reflexes a product of their partial transformation. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with the Vorkath strike team. The aliens' otherworldly appearance sent a shiver down Joshua's spine. Their bodies seemed to shift and flow, adapting to the environment with unnatural ease. The two groups clashed in a furious firefight. Energy blasts scorched the walls as Joshua and Lara used their newfound abilities to outmaneuver the Vorkath. Their partially hybridized forms granted them increased speed and agility, but also made them vulnerable to the aliens' weapons. In the heat of battle, Joshua spotted a Vorkath soldier taking aim at Lara's exposed back. Without thinking, he threw himself into the path of the energy blast. The impact sent him flying, his body convulsing as the alien energy coursed through him. "Joshua!" Lara cried out, her voice filled with anguish and fury. She unleashed a barrage of bioenergy, driving back the Vorkath attackers. As the security team pressed their advantage, Lara knelt beside Joshua's prone form. His body shifted rapidly between human and hybrid states, the injury triggering a surge of unstable bioenergy within him. Lara placed her hands on Joshua's chest, her own partially transformed body pulsing with energy. She focused intently, using her Tsenkethi abilities to stabilize his condition. Slowly, the violent transformations subsided, leaving Joshua unconscious but alive. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the momentary lull in the fighting. "All personnel, prepare for final evacuation. We cannot hold the colony any longer." As the last of the evacuees boarded the waiting ships, Rodriguez made a fateful decision. "Get Shaw and Lara to the special containment unit. We can't risk separating them now." A team of medics carefully placed Joshua and Lara into a specially designed stasis pod. As the lid sealed shut, their bodies instinctively drew closer, their bioluminescent skin pulsing in perfect synchronization. The final evacuation ships lifted off, carrying the hopes and fears of the colonists. Among them, the stasis pod containing Joshua and Lara hummed with potential energy, their entwined forms suspended between human and Tsenkethi, their shared destiny now inexorably linked to the future of both their species and the ongoing conflict with the Vorkath. As the flotilla of escape ships entered faster-than-light travel, the abandoned colony erupted in a cataclysm of Vorkath energy weapons. The once thriving outpost, a symbol of human expansion and interspecies cooperation, vanished in a blinding flash of destructive power. Aboard the lead ship, Captain Rodriguez stood at the viewport, her expression grim as she watched the last traces of the colony fade from view. Her hand rested on the smooth surface of the stasis pod, where Joshua and Lara lay suspended in their hybrid state, their shared journey a long way to go. The evacuation fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, the gas giant's swirling atmosphere dominating the viewports. Captain Rodriguez exhaled slowly, her eyes fixed on the space station orbiting the massive planet. The ISS Curiosity, its hull scarred and battered, led the ragtag group of ships toward their sanctuary. As they approached the station, Rodriguez's comm unit crackled to life. "This is Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka of Outpost Sigma 7. Welcome, survivors of New Harmony Colony. Proceed to docking bays 3 through 12 for immediate processing." The captain acknowledged the transmission, then turned her attention to the stasis pod containing Joshua and Lara. Their entwined forms pulsed with soft bioluminescence, a reminder of the extraordinary events that had led them to this point. "Medical team to docking bay 3, Rodriguez ordered. Priority 1, hybrid subjects." As the ships docked, organized chaos erupted. Medical personnel swarmed the arriving vessels, triaging evacuees and paying special attention to those affected by the hybridization process. The stasis pod was quickly transferred to a waiting hover gurney, surrounded by a team of researchers in protective gear. Dr. Eliana Chen, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, strode purposefully alongside the gurney. "Get them to Containment Lab Alpha," she instructed her team. "I want full bioscans initiated before we even think about opening that pod." In the lab, machines hummed to life as the pod was carefully positioned in the center of the room. Dr. Chen studied the readouts, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Their cellular structure is in a constant state of flux, yet somehow maintaining overall stability." With a nod to her team, she initiated the pod's opening sequence. As the seal broke with a hiss of escaping air, Joshua and Lara's bodies seemed to pulse in unison. Their skin shimmered, shifting between human and Senkethi textures. "Prepare 2 isolation chambers," Dr. Chen ordered. "We need to separate them for individual analysis." As the hybrid pair was carefully transferred to their respective chambers, Captain Rodriguez entered the lab, her uniform still bearing the grime of battle. Admiral Tanaka followed close behind, his determined eyes fixed on the unconscious subjects. "Report, Doctor," the Admiral demanded. Dr. Chen straightened, gesturing to the array of monitors surrounding them. "Their condition has stabilized, Admiral, but their physiology remains in a state of flux. We're dealing with something entirely new here, a true human Senkethi hybrid." Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice low. "And the others, the colonists who were affected by the energy surge?" "We're still assessing them," Chen replied, "but initial scans show varying degrees of hybridization. Nothing as advanced as these 2, but significant nonetheless." Admiral Tanaka's eyes narrowed. "I want to know everything about this hybrid technology, Captain. Its potential as a weapon against the Vorkath could be game-changing." Before Rodriguez could respond, alarms blared from the monitoring equipment. Joshua's eyes snapped open, his body arching off the examination table. In the adjacent chamber, Lara's form began to ripple and shift. "They're regaining consciousness," Dr. Chen called out, rushing to adjust the containment field settings. "Vitals are spiking across the board." Joshua's gaze darted around the room, confusion evident in his expression. His mouth moved, but no sound emerged. Instead, a wave of bioluminescence pulsed across his skin. In her chamber, Lara reacted as if responding to an unheard voice. Her own bioluminescent patterns flared in response, creating a mesmerizing light show between the 2 isolation units. Dr. Chen's eyes widened in realization. "They're communicating," she breathed. "Somehow, they're maintaining a connection despite the physical separation." Admiral Tanaka leaned in, his voice urgent. "Can you understand them, Doctor? What are they saying?" Chen shook her head, frustration evident in her voice. "It's not that simple, sir. This isn't verbal or even standard telepathic communication. It's something entirely new, a shared bioenergy field that allows them to transmit thoughts and sensations." As the medical team worked to stabilize the hybrids, Captain Rodriguez pulled Admiral Tanaka aside. "Sir, we need to discuss the Vorkath threat. They won't be far behind us." The Admiral nodded grimly. "Agreed. Let's move this to the command center. Dr. Chen, I want hourly updates on their condition and any progress in deciphering their communication." As the officers left the lab, Dr. Chen turned back to her subjects. Joshua and Lara had calmed somewhat, their bioluminescent pulses now synced in a steady rhythm. She tapped a command into her datapad, adjusting the sensors to better capture the subtle energy fluctuations between them. "All right," she murmured, more to herself than to her team. "Let's see what secrets you 2 are hiding." In the isolation chambers, Joshua and Lara's eyes met across the divide. A silent understanding passed between them, their shared consciousness grappling with their new reality. As the station's researchers worked feverishly to unravel the mysteries of their hybrid physiology, neither of them could shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger transformation, one that would reshape the future of human Tsenkethi relations and their struggle against the Vorkath. As Dr. Chen worked to decipher the intricate communication between Joshua and Lara, alarms blared throughout the station. The sudden cacophony startled the research team, their eyes darting to the flashing red lights overhead. "Security breach in sectors 3 through 7, a computerized voice announced. "All personnel initiate lockdown protocols." Dr. Chen's fingers flew across her console, bringing up security feeds from across the station. Her eyes widened as she witnessed chaos unfolding in multiple areas. "It's Victor Kane," she breathed, recognizing the leader of the extremist group. "He's made his move." In their isolation chambers, Joshua and Lara stirred, their bioluminescent patterns intensifying. Joshua's hand pressed against the transparent wall, his eyes focused on something beyond the confines of the lab. "They're trying to sabotage the bioshield," he said, his voice hoarse from disuse. Lara nodded, her own gaze distant. "We can feel it, the fluctuations in the energy field." Dr. Chen looked from one hybrid to the other, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her concern for the station's security. "You can sense the bioshield?" Before either could respond, the entire station shuddered. The lights flickered, and the hum of power coursing through the walls faltered. "Vorkath attack!" the computerized voice announced. "All hands to battle stations." Dr. Chen's comm unit crackled to life, Admiral Tanaka's voice cutting through the chaos. "Doctor, we need Shaw and Lara at the shield generator now. It's our only chance to hold off the Vorkath long enough to mount a defense." With a reluctant nod, Chen initiated the release sequence for the isolation chambers. As the barriers retracted, Joshua and Lara stepped out, their bodies shimmer with almost unchecked energy. "This way," Dr. Chen said, leading them toward the exit. "We'll need to—" Her words were cut short as the lab doors burst open. Victor Kane stood in the doorway, flanked by armed extremists. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of hatred and fascination as he took in the sight of the hybrids. "So these are the abominations," he sneered, "humanity's great hope against the alien threat." Joshua stepped forward, positioning himself between Kane and the others. As he did so, his hand brushed against a nearby console. Suddenly, the device sprang to life, screens flashing with rapidly scrolling data. Startled, Joshua pulled his hand away, but not before noticing the way the electronics had responded to his touch. He glanced at Lara, a silent understanding passing between them. Kane raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Lara thrust her hands forward. A shimmering barrier of energy materialized between them and the extremists, deflecting the first volley of shots. "Go!" Joshua shouted to Dr. Chen. "Get to the shield generator. We'll handle this." As Chen and her team fled the lab, Joshua focused on the station's systems around him. With a thought, he triggered the emergency lockdown protocols, sealing off sections of the station and trapping groups of extremists. Lara maintained her force field, her face a mask of concentration as she expanded it to protect key areas of the lab. "Joshua," she called out, her voice strained. "I don't know how long I can hold this." Nodding, Joshua reached out with his newfound ability, tapping into the station's communication system. "Admiral Tanaka," he said, his voice echoing through the station's speakers. "We need security forces to fall back and provide support. Lara and I will handle the extremists." Across the station, Admiral Tanaka received Joshua's message with a mixture of surprise and relief. "Acknowledged," he responded. "All security personnel regroup and support Shaw and Lara. Priority is protecting the bioshield and repelling the Vorkath attack." As the battle raged both inside and outside the station, Dr. Chen raced to her secondary lab. Her mind whirled with possibilities as she considered the hybrids' new abilities. If she could stabilize their physiology, enhance their control over these powers. In the main laboratory, Joshua and Lara moved in perfect synchronization. Their shared consciousness allowed them to anticipate each other's actions, creating a formidable defense against Kane's forces. Joshua manipulated the station's systems, sealing off escape routes and disabling the extremist communications. Lara's force fields expanded and contracted, protecting vital equipment and pinning down their attackers. As they fought, both hybrids felt a growing strain on their bodies. Their skin flickered between human and Senkethi textures, the effort of maintaining their abilities taking its toll. In her lab, Dr. Chen worked feverishly, analyzing data from their earlier scans. Her fingers flew across holographic displays, combining complex formulas and adjusting molecular structures. "This has to work," she muttered, inputting the final calculations for a specialized nutrient solution. As the solution synthesized, Chen's comm unit crackled. "Doctor?" Admiral Tanaka's voice was tense. "The Vorkath have launched another attack run. Our shields are failing. Whatever you're doing, do it fast." Chen grabbed the vials of glowing blue liquid as soon as they materialized. She rushed from the lab, dodging debris as the station shuddered under another assault. In the main laboratory, Joshua and Lara fought to maintain their hold on the bioshield. Their bodies pulsed with energy, but their movements had become sluggish, their powers flickering like a dying flame. "We can't hold on much longer," Lara gasped, her force field wavering. Joshua nodded grimly, his connection to the station's systems growing tenuous. "We have to, for everyone's sake." The lab doors hissed open, revealing Dr. Chen, her lab coat singed and her hair in disarray. In her hands, she clutched 2 vials of luminescent blue liquid. "Drink this," she said, pressing the vials into their hands. "It should stabilize your hybrid physiology and allow you to maintain your abilities." Without hesitation, Joshua and Lara downed the contents of the vials. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a surge of energy coursed through their bodies. Their skin stabilized, the flickering between human and Senkethi forms ceasing. Joshua felt his connection to the station's systems strengthen, becoming clearer and more precise. Lara's force field solidified, expanding to encompass a larger area with less effort. As they regained control of their abilities, a new alarm sounded. Victor Kane's voice echoed through the station's speakers, filled with manic tenacity. "This ends now," he declared. "If humanity won't save itself, I'll do it for them, even if it means destroying everything." Joshua and Lara shared a look of unbreakable spirit. With their powers stabilized and their drive strengthened, they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of the station and perhaps humanity itself hung in the balance as they stepped forward to confront Kane and his extremists. Extremists and the looming Vorkath threat. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Admiral Tanaka's voice crackled over the intercom, his tone grave. "All personnel, this is not a drill. Initiate full evacuation protocols immediately. I repeat, full evacuation." Joshua and Lara exchanged a glance, their newly stabilized hybrid physiology humming with energy. They could sense the approaching danger through their heightened connection to the station's systems. "We can't leave," Joshua said, his voice firm. "Our abilities might be the only thing standing between these people and annihilation." Lara nodded, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in agreement. "We have to stay and buy them time." Dr. Chen, who had been monitoring their vitals, stepped forward. "If you're staying, so am I. We've only scratched the surface of understanding your hybrid physiology. This data could be crucial." Admiral Tanaka burst into the lab, flanked by security personnel. His eyes widened as he took in the scene, the contained extremists, the hybrids standing tall, and the willpower on Dr. Chen's face. "Doctor, we need to go," he insisted. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive Vorkath battle group heading our way. We're vastly outnumbered." "With all due respect, Admiral," Joshua interjected, "Lara and I volunteer to remain behind with a small team. Our hybrid abilities give us the best chance of defending the station and covering the evacuation." Tanaka's expression hardened, but he nodded reluctantly. "Very well, but we'll need a plan, and quickly." As the evacuation began in earnest, with ships departing in waves, Joshua, Lara, and Dr. Chen huddled with the Admiral and his top staff. The hybrids explained their idea to amplify their abilities using the station's power core. It's risky, Dr. Chen cautioned, but it might be our only shot at generating a shield powerful enough to withstand the Vorkath assault. Technicians worked feverishly to construct a specialized interface, connecting Joshua and Lara directly to the station's reactor. As they integrated with the system, their bodies shimmered, the merge between human and Tzenkethi characteristics becoming more pronounced. The first wave of Vorkath ships appeared on the long-range scanners, just as the last civilian vessels prepared to depart. Joshua and Lara, now fully linked to the station's power core, felt the approaching threat like a gathering storm. "Now!" Joshua called out, his voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. In unison, the hybrids activated the enhanced bioshield. A ripple of iridescent energy expanded outward from the station, enveloping both the structure and the nearby evacuation ships. The shield's surface undulated with patterns reminiscent of Joshua and Lara's bioluminescence. The Vorkath fleet launched its initial assault, a barrage of energy weapons impacting the bioshield. Joshua and Lara grunted with effort, their bodies straining as they channeled massive amounts of power to maintain the barrier. From the bridge of the ISS Curiosity, Admiral Tanaka coordinated the remaining defense forces. "Deploy Raptor Squadron," he ordered. "Engage the smaller Vorkath vessels and create a diversion for the evacuation ships." The battle in space intensified, with human fighters darting between the hulking Vorkath warships. Explosions blossomed in the void, silent testament to the lives lost on both sides. Inside the station, Dr. Chen and her team worked tirelessly to monitor Joshua and Lara's condition. The hybrid pair's connection to the station deepened with each passing moment, allowing them to control defense systems with mere thoughts. "Activating portside turrets," Lara announced, her eyes glowing with an inner light. Joshua's fingers danced across a holographic interface only he could see. "Launching decoy probes, rerouting power to Section 8C. The Vorkath, frustrated by their inability to breach the bioshield, shifted tactics. They began concentrating fire on specific sections of the station, causing localized fluctuations in the shield's integrity. "They're targeting the power relays," Joshua called out, sweat beading on his metallic sheen skin. Lara's bioluminescent patterns flared as she redirected energy to the weakened areas. "I've got it, but I don't know how long we can keep this up." Dr. Chen's monitoring equipment suddenly blared with alarms. She rushed to check the readouts, her face paling. "Joshua, Lara, your hybridization process is accelerating. If you maintain this connection much longer, the changes may become irreversible." The hybrids shared a look of understanding, their mental link allowing for instantaneous communication. They knew the risks, but the alternative was unthinkable. Just as it seemed the station's defenses might buckle, a new signal appeared on the sensors. A Tzenkethi battlecruiser dropped out of faster-than-light travel, immediately engaging the Vorkath fleet. The unexpected arrival had an astonishing effect on Joshua and Lara. Their hybrid physiology resonated with the Tzenkethi technology, creating a three-way connection between them, the station, and the battlecruiser. "This is incredible," Lara gasped, her perception expanding to encompass the Tzenkethi ship. Joshua nodded, his eyes unfocused as he processed the flood of new information. "It's amplifying our abilities, but the strain—" Dr. Chen's instruments were going haywire, struggling to keep up with the rapid changes in the hybrid's physiology. "Your cellular structure is destabilizing," she warned. "We need to disconnect you from the system." But Joshua and Lara had made a startling discovery through their enhanced perception. At the heart of the Vorkath fleet, they detected a unique energy signature, a massive ship coordinating the entire attack. "We've found their weakness," Joshua announced, his voice strained but determined. Lara nodded, already formulating a plan. "If we can take out that command ship, we might be able to disrupt the entire Vorkath assault." As they prepared to execute their daring strategy, Dr. Chen made a final, desperate plea. "You can't push yourselves any further. Your bodies won't survive the strain." Joshua and Lara exchanged a final glance, their decision made. They began channeling an enormous surge of energy through their hybrid forms, preparing to launch a concentrated attack on the Vorkath command ship. The fate of the station, the evacuees, and perhaps the future of human-Senkethi relations hung in the balance as Joshua and Lara initiated their all-or-nothing assault against the heart of the Vorkath fleet. Time seemed to slow as Joshua and Lara poured every ounce of their hybrid energy into the attack. The station trembled, its structure groaning under the immense strain as a blinding beam of bioenergy erupted from its core. The concentrated blast streaked across the void, a brilliant ribbon of light cutting through the darkness of space. It struck the Vorkath command ship with pinpoint accuracy, piercing through its shields as if they were tissue paper. For a moment, the massive vessel appeared unchanged. Then a series of explosions rippled across its hull. From the bridge of the ISS Curiosity, Admiral Tanaka watched in awe as the Vorkath command ship broke apart, secondary explosions tearing through its superstructure. "By God," he breathed, "they did it." The destruction of their flagship threw the Vorkath fleet into disarray. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation now scattered, their coordinated assault dissolving into chaos. The Senkethi battlecruiser seized the opportunity, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons that tore through the disorganized enemy vessels. Inside the station's lab, alarms blared as Joshua and Lara's bodies convulsed. Their skins shifted rapidly between human and Senkethi textures, bioluminescent patterns flaring and fading erratically. "We need to disconnect them now," Dr. Chen shouted, her fingers flying over the control panel. But as she attempted to sever the connection, sparks erupted from the interface. The energy feedback is too strong. Their biosignatures have merged with the station's systems. Joshua's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. "Can't... Hold on," he gasped, his voice distorted and alien. Lara reached out, her hand flickering between human and Senkethi form. "Joshua, I can feel you. Everywhere." As the hybrids struggled, the station shuddered violently. Emergency lights flashed, and the computer's voice echoed through the corridors. "Warning, critical system failure. Emergency protocols engaged." Admiral Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm system, tinged with urgency. "Dr. Chen, what's happening down there? We're reading massive power fluctuations across the station." Chen gripped the edge of her console, watching in horror as system after system went dark. "The power surge from Joshua and Lara's attack has overloaded our primary systems. We're losing control of..." Her words were cut off as a series of explosions rocked the station. Bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off damaged sections and trapping crew members in the process. "This is Admiral Tanaka to all personnel," the COMEM system blared. "Initiate immediate evacuation. I repeat, all hands abandon station." In the chaos of the evacuation, Dr. Chen's mind raced. She stared at the readouts from Joshua and Lara's biomonitors, noting the wild fluctuations in their cellular structure. Suddenly, a pattern emerged in the data. "Wait," she murmured, her eyes widening. "This isn't degradation. It's evolution." As rescue teams from the ISS Curiosity and the Senkethi battlecruiser boarded the station, they encountered unexpected resistance. Automated defense drones, their programming twisted by the hybrid's merged consciousness, swarmed the corridors. "This is Rescue Team Alpha," a gruff voice reported over the comms. "We're encountering heavy resistance from security systems. Request immediate assistance." In the lab, Dr. Chen worked feverishly, her hands dancing across holographic interfaces as she reprogrammed medical equipment on the fly. "I need to create a biostasis field," she explained to her assistant. "If we can slow down their cellular processes, it might give their bodies time to find a new equilibrium." As she spoke, the lab's doors hissed open. A squad of soldiers in heavy armor burst in, weapons raised. "Dr. Chen," the leader barked, "Admiral Tanaka sent us to secure this position. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. We've got hostiles incoming." Outside the station, the space battle reached a fever pitch. The remaining Vorkath ships, rallying from their earlier disarray, launched a final, desperate assault. Energy beams lanced out, striking the station's flickering bioshield. Inside, Joshua and Lara's merged consciousness expanded through the station's systems. They were everywhere and nowhere, their thoughts racing through circuitry and conduits. In this state of flux, they sensed the incoming attack. With a Herculean effort, they reached out through the station's defense grid. The bioshield, previously faltering, suddenly blazed to life. It expanded outward, enveloping not just the station, but the nearby defending ships as well. The Vorkath weapons splashed harmlessly against the reinforced shield. From the bridge of the Tzenkethi battlecruiser, the alien commander watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned decisively in their favor. In the lab, Dr. Chen activated the biostasis field. A shimmering bubble of energy enveloped Joshua and Lara, their bodies finally stilling as their cellular processes slowed to a crawl. The doctor sagged against her console, exhaustion etched on her face. "We've done it," she whispered. "They're stable. For now." As the last Vorkath ship fell to the combined might of the human and Tzenkethi forces, an uneasy calm settled over the damaged station. The immediate crisis had passed, but the true challenge lay ahead. In the biostasis field, Joshua and Lara's minds continued to merge, human and Tzenkethi aspects blending into something entirely new. Their shared consciousness reached out, touching the minds of those around them. Dr. Chen gasped as she felt their presence, a whisper of something vast and alien, yet achingly familiar. She knew that when the hybrids awakened, they would be forever changed. And with them, the future of human-Tzenkethi relations, perhaps the future of the galaxy itself, hung in the balance. As rescue operations continued throughout the station, Dr. Chen began preparations for the delicate process of reviving Joshua and Lara from their biostasis. The station's corridors buzzed with activity, repair crews working alongside medical teams to stabilize the damaged structure and tend to the injured. Admiral Tanaka's voice came over the comms, his tone a mixture of relief and concern. "Dr. Chen, status report. How soon can we expect our heroes to wake up?" "Up?" Dr. Chen took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving the biostasis field containing Joshua and Lara. "It's complicated, Admiral," she replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Their cellular structure has stabilized, but it's unlike anything we've seen before. I'm initiating the revival process now." The biostasis field shimmered and slowly dissipated. Joshua and Lara's bodies, previously in constant flux, settled into a mesmerizing new form. Their skin took on an iridescent sheen, pulsing with intricate bioluminescent patterns that seemed to flow between them. As their eyes fluttered open, the room fell silent. Dr. Chen and her team watched in awe as the hybrid pair's gazes met, a wordless communication passing between them. Their fingers intertwined, a soft glow emanating from the point of contact. Joshua sat up first, his movements fluid and graceful. "We're okay," he said, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "Better than okay." Lara nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "We can see everything," she added, her tone filled with wonder. "The energy flows, the systems, it's all so clear now." Dr. Chen approached cautiously, her medical scanner humming. "How do you feel? Are you in any pain?" The hybrids shared a look, a silent conversation passing between them in an instant. "No pain," Joshua answered. "Just awareness. We can sense the station's systems, the damage." Without warning, Joshua and Lara stood in perfect synchronization. They raised their hands, palms outward, and closed their eyes. The lab's equipment sparked to life, displays flickering with rapidly scrolling data. "What are they doing?" Admiral Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as error messages on her console began to clear. "They're repairing the station," she breathed. "Somehow they're interfacing directly with our systems." Throughout the station, damaged circuits mended themselves. Malfunctioning systems came back online, optimized beyond their original specifications. The Tzenkethi battlecruiser, still linked to the station, experienced a surge of power as its systems were enhanced by the hybrid's intervention. In the lab, Joshua and Lara opened their eyes, lowering their hands. "The immediate damage has been addressed," Lara stated matter-of-factly. "We've also improved several key systems," Joshua added. "The station's efficiency has increased by approximately 27.8%. Admiral Tanaka strode into the lab, his eyes wide as he took in the scene. "I've never seen anything like this," he muttered, then cleared his throat. "Joshua, Lara, On behalf of Earth Command, I thank you for your service. Your actions have saved countless lives. The hybrids nodded in unison, their movements perfectly mirrored. We're glad we could help, they replied simultaneously, then blinked in surprise at their synchronicity. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. Your ability to interface with our technology is remarkable, and the way you communicate, it's as if you share a single consciousness. Joshua and Lara exchanged another silent look. We do, Lara explained. Our minds are linked, but we're still individuals. It's difficult to describe. We can perceive and manipulate energy fields at a fundamental level. Joshua continued. It allows us to interact with both human and Synkethi technology in ways we never thought possible. Admiral Tanaka's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. This could change everything, he said, his mind racing with possibilities. If we could harness this ability, study it. The lab doors hissed open, revealing the Synkethi battlecruiser's captain. The alien's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with interest as it regarded the hybrid pair. Our sensors detected the energy surge, the captain said, its translator rendering the clicks and chirps into English. Your abilities are most impressive. Tanaka turned to the Synkethi captain, an idea forming. Captain, what would you say to a joint research initiative, a collaborative effort to study and develop these hybrid abilities? The Synkethi's patterns shifted, indicating curiosity. Such cooperation would be unprecedented, it replied. But after witnessing the effectiveness of our combined forces against the Vorkath, I am intrigued by the possibility. As the human and Synkethi leaders began to discuss the potential of this new alliance, Joshua and Lara stood quietly, their hands still linked. They could feel the weight of expectation settling on their shoulders, the hopes and fears of two species converging on their unique existence. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Lara asked silently, her thoughts flowing directly into Joshua's mind. Joshua squeezed her hand gently, their shared bioenergy pulsing in response. It is, he replied mentally. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Around them, the station hummed with renewed energy, its systems optimized by their hybrid touch. As scientists and diplomats from both species began to arrive, eager to participate in this groundbreaking initiative, Joshua and Lara knew that their journey of discovery was far from finished. The boundaries between human and Synkethi were blurring, and they stood at the center of it all, living proof of the incredible potential that lay in embracing their differences.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.